Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. So I'm going to give a talk that builds very much on the talk that Mary just gave. So thank you for such a great talk, Mary. I'm going to be talking about some other coral reef conservation technologies. And I'm a coral reef ecologist at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography. And I got into coral reef science because when I was an undergraduate, I was able to dive on the Great Barrier Reef for the first time. And just when I dove into the water and saw the beauty and diversity and complexity of coral reefs, I was hooked. And I've been studying coral reefs now for 20 years. And unfortunately, as Mary explained, a lot of the reefs that I've been working on and reefs globally are in a state of decline. So I wanted to dedicate myself to finding ways that we could protect reefs and hopefully take some of these damaged reefs and find ways to make them look more like the beautiful and diverse reefs that we still have in several of the remote parts of the world. So today I'm going to focus on conservation technologies. I'm going to introduce you to a few of the technologies that we've been working on, and I want to emphasize how important collaboration has been on these projects. So with all of the projects I'm going to present today, they've involved biologists, chemists, engineers, and computer scientists to really try to develop new approaches for trying to better understand and protect coral reefs. So the first one I want to talk to you about is what we call the Computer Vision Coral Ecology Project. And when we survey the reefs of the world, the normal way that we do that is we take underwater photographs. We do it along transect, so we swim along these lines, taking photographs every couple of meters. And then the hard work begins when you have to take these photographs back to the lab and try to get data from the photographs. So in a mission, you could collect hundreds to thousands of photographs. And unfortunately, less than 1% of all the photographs taken of coral reefs for coral reef science and conservation are ever analyzed. So we teamed up with some computer scientists at the University of California, San Diego, and using computer vision and image recognition technologies, a lot like the technologies that are in Facebook. So when you click on photos in Facebook and you tag your friends, after a while, the computer starts to recognize your friends' faces. Well, what we're doing is we're tagging photos of corals and training the computer that this is coral A, this is coral B, this is algae. And after a little bit of training, the computers can speed up the process. So we call it a semi-automated process. And with this process, we can analyze the photos and get data from them 10,000 times faster and at over 90% accuracy compared to coral ecologists doing it manually. So we're hoping that by using these computer vision technologies that we'll be able to expand the scale of coral reef surveys and coral reef health data and also really make the data, get the data much quicker so that we can make better conservation and management decisions. And another thing that we've been doing to try to expand on what we're doing with coral reef surveys is we're working with a robotics group in Australia that uses underwater robots, or AUVs, that image the reefs with calibrated stereo cameras. And rather than just getting these snapshots of what the reef looks like, we can image several football fields of reef at a time down to great depths where human divers can't go. And these 3D photo mosaics even give us information about how three-dimensionally complex the reefs are, which tends to be a really important parameter for coral reef health. And by combining this technology with our computer automation technology, we're working on trying to automate every single pixel in a photo mosaic like this, so that if we do repeat photo mosaic surveys, we'll actually be able to get new important ecological information, such as the rates of growth and mortality of all the different organisms on the sea floor. And we feel like this will really revolutionize how we do coral reef ecology and the sorts of information that we can use for conservation and management. So the next project I'm briefly going to talk about is we wanted to see how all of these climate change impacts that Mary mentioned, how they're affecting coral reefs. So I worked with a team of engineers in Australia and at Mbari, and we developed what we call an underwater time machine. And this system, which we call our free ocean carbon enrichment system, it uses a sensor array to actually produce future levels of CO2 actually on the reef itself with all the natural ecosystem and all the associated organisms. And we're using this time machine to be able to understand which parts of the reef ecosystem are most susceptible, who are going to be the winners and losers of climate change. And we're trying to develop now a portable version so we can even figure out which parts of the reef are most vulnerable, which are most resilient, and how we might be able to change our management strategies to take some of these considerations into management plans for a future in a high CO2 world. And then the last project I want to talk to you about is what we call CSI Coral Reefs. And this is a collaboration with Martine Tresgueres at Scripps. And Martine is a cellular biologist, and using medical methods that are commonly shown on CSI, where they're trying to figure out who committed a crime, we're using them to actually figure out which cells and which cellular processes are involved in coral reef stress. So when we can figure out where the stress reactions are occurring and get the mechanisms of how corals deal with stress, we're hoping that we're going to figure out new methods for trying to minimize the stress that the corals are experiencing. And I want to close by saying we've seen a lot of great talks in the last couple days about how science alone is not enough. And I feel like one of the only ways we're going to save coral reefs, considering the scale of the problem, is through education. So we've been working on a project with PBS and Jim Henson's Splash and Bubbles, which is a kids animated program for K through second graders. And we're developing educational materials to get young children excited about the oceans and about protecting their oceans. And then just last month, I was on a panel with Jean Cousteau about a new biopic of Jacques Cousteau, a new French biopic. And seeing the film and being part of this panel made me realize what an important character Jacques Cousteau has been for the oceans. He's inspired millions to care about the oceans, and he inspired me to become a marine biologist. And I feel like we need to collaborate with creative types, with filmmakers, with photographers, with musicians to build a narrative. We heard Randy Olson's talk about the importance of a powerful narrative. Jacques Cousteau was king of creating amazing narratives around the oceans, and we need to make these narratives around coral reefs. And I'm going to be working on a documentary about the Cuban coral reefs, and we're actually doing a docudrama where there'll be actors that are along on a coral reef expedition where we document the reefs. And we're also working on a series of documentaries and potentially television shows where we show the reefs using virtual reality and underwater microscopes to give a new perspective on coral reefs and try to highlight some of the success stories of how we protect coral reefs. And thank you very much for your time, and I hope you'll join me in the mission to try to protect coral reefs for the future. Thank you.